All right, let's start our webinar today. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're signing in today. Gatsby welcomes you. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Headless Shopify. So today's webinar is an introduction to Headless Shopify. And just a little housekeeping, this webinar will be recorded. We'll send an email in the next 48 hours. You'll get that recording. So if you do have to sign off, if you do have to catch something quickly, don't worry, you're still going to be able to see everything, hear everything, but we will be doing live Q&A. We'll have a poll as well, so feel free to stick around for some interactive communication. And then the other thing too quick is please ask questions in the questions tab. It's called Q&A here. It's a lot easier for us on the moderating side to follow rather than chat, which is a little free flowing and will continue to spiral out of control. All right, so my name is Dan Giordano. I run product marketing at Gatsby. We're talking about Shopify today. And these are kind of four things we're going to cover. We're going to cover quickly some Shopify basics, what it does, how it got started. And then we're really going to focus on headless versus traditional architecture and some of the benefits of that traditional or of that headless architecture versus traditional monolithic applications like Shopify's broader platform, things like WordPress. And then we'll quickly talk a little bit about Gatsby fits into the world here, how it relates to Headless Shopify, and how you can get started with Gatsby and Shopify. All right, so first, quick intro about Gatsby. Gatsby is an open source front-end framework and also a cloud platform with Gatsby Cloud. We've been around now for almost 6 years. We have over 50 million downloads and well over 50,000 GitHub stars. We're a very popular open source project. And again, we're just getting going with things like Gatsby Cloud and some of the other products we're bringing to market. Shopify, on the other hand, has been around for a while now. It's actually been around since 2004. It has over 500,000 active businesses using the platform, and its quarterly sales last year, I believe in Q4, was $36 billion. So $36 billion worth of goods were sold through the Shopify platform by businesses, individual entrepreneurs, all sorts of folks using the Shopify from large to small. And what does Shopify really do? They made selling items online easy. So for the past 20 years, there's been this e-commerce revolution going on. Vendors, brick and mortar stores bringing their wares to the digital frontier, and also just individual stores popping up left and right to sell small items, affiliate marketing. Everything got really popular in the last 20 years, and Shopify was the one to make selling your items really easy. Again, no matter if you were a large customer or a small customer, you could get set up on Shopify's platform and build your own Amazon. You could put in your items and start selling just as a big box realtor could. It gave you all the tools that you would need, things like product catalogs, things like order tracking, shipping, metrics, which we'll talk about. All of this came out of the box in the Shopify platform, and it allowed you to sell anything. You could become a soccerpreneur. You could become whatever you really wanted to sell, even services. You could go through Shopify. So it became like the blogging side for WordPress. It became that for e-commerce. And it has some awesome tools in the back end as well to measure all of your sales. It has dashboarding analytics, it has customer tracking, it has, again, catalog management. All of these things come really out of the box with Shopify's powerful platform. Whether you're on their free tier or their plus, you're going to get a lot of these out of the box. But all this comes kind of with the trepidation of a lock-in on a single vendor. So scaling Shopify can be tough. And we're not talking about scaling Shopify as in performance here, although we will later. We're really talking about scaling Shopify across your business. So can Shopify scale across the content that you need to produce, the development that you might have in-app versus your e-commerce business, the features that your customers are constantly asking for. Your marketing or business systems, as you grow larger and you have more fulfillment things, can it integrate with that fancy ERP system you have, or those legacy databases that you might have attached to another business? These are all the things where locking yourself into a single vendor, even one as prolific as Shopify, you can really start hitting this wall. You're going to get your business to a certain size, and then you're going to need to look outward. And that's where headless Shopify can really come in and start helping. We've used this word headless. Sometimes it's composable, but it's all about kind of taking apart the layers here. And this is a term that is increasing in popularity, so I'm sure you've seen it more and more. And it's becoming the predominantly modern way to build an e-commerce store, and not even for businesses that are large and hit a wall. This is becoming the predominant way to build your Shopify business today, with a headless CMS, headless Shopify, and then a front-end framework attached to it. So what is headless? Let's talk about it a little bit. Is it more than just a Lego person without a head? And to do that, we'll first actually look at some traditional implementation patterns. So headless is the new way. Let's look at the old way to kind of compare along that and get ourselves a firm footing. So the traditional architecture has some content or data written, and that data is in a backend system that is attached to this front end. And this box right here is really the crux of the entire situation. Where the backend and the front end sit in this black box, there are many things in between, but the problem is that black box controls a lot of the interaction between it. It controls the plugins, it controls the interaction, the features that are going to come along with the tying of the back end front end, and it's going to be slowed down in the system. Now, this compounds even more when you have multiple systems, right? So if you have multiple traditional monolithic systems and you add on functionality that one may not have, that kind of means you need this whole different system to be maintained. And here it's kind of getting confusing with system A, system B, system C, all having their own back end and front end, all kind of having their own content architecture. But it really starts to make sense once you see this Frankenweb. And this is a common practice between any size company for the past 20 years. They've often had multiple subdomains that have tracked multiple technologies. So these are multiple technologies in closed loop traditional systems that need to be used kind of separately. So to do that, in the past, we've done maybe a subdomain. So we have store.domain.com, and that store maybe is a Shopify implementation. It's going to get rerouted through the DNS to either store, or we can do something more complicated like a reverse proxy and get it to go into like domain.com/store. But either way, it's a whole separate system. It has a separate database. You're going to enter items into that database differently than your other things. It's going to handle a lot of the things that are core to like an e-commerce implementation. So product cataloging, the shopping cart, the payment, maybe some shipping type things, promotions, promotional codes. All these things are normal to any e-commerce experience. And they're things that in the past have either been custom implementation that has taken a really long time to implement, or they've been this single threaded platforms like, again, Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce. They've all traditionally tried to do this in one small space. And then we have like a domain.com, which would maybe be the marketing website. And that marketing website would have things like company info, maybe careers. It just has all the information outside of the store. And maybe we were running that on Drupal or a custom implementation. Sometimes these things are only a couple pages. So maybe we were doing it with HTML. Maybe we were using Shopify to kind of also fulfill our needs as a marketing website. So we were using kind of the templates that Shopify gave us. And then there's the blog. Obviously, WordPress is most commonly used. You also, again, see this implemented all the time on a subdomain. So kind of breaking up your SEO juice between two domains here because of technological needs. So WordPress might be blog.domain.com and contain all of your blogs. You might link back to your store.domain.com to kind of drive that organic and passive revenue. But again, you're splitting up a lot of SEO, a lot of organic work here is going to for naught. And then support, again, usually this is something like Zendesk or Help Scout. You're going to have this whole different interface that everyone has very similar experiences with, big squares. They're going to say getting started, maybe payments, and they're going to be connected to your ticketing system. There might be a pop-up chat, but that's going to live in its own world on maybe a support.domain.com subdomain. And all of these systems are these traditional monolithic systems that are used throughout all businesses. And again, once you start to think about these things this way, I think it's a little bit familiar to most users, even non-developers, I think are starting to be like, oh yeah, I do see these things. They always look different. I'm always clicking around. I do notice sometimes in the URL bar, they have different domains. It might freak me out for making a purchase. Is this safe? So all of these things happen traditionally. Headless, on the other hand, is about composable functionality piped together by APIs. So we're getting best of breed functionality by each tool, and we're bringing them together in a headless API-driven way. So headless architecture is breaking apart these boxes where the back end is in its own box and the front end is in a separate box. And that means that back end components can be updated without interacting or messing up with the front end components and vice versa. So teams can go at different speeds and not trip over each other. And this really manifests when we have these multiple systems. So in this way, we can have system A, system B, system C, all with different backends, all with different, let's say, access points, different content management systems, different teams that are working on them. And they're all getting rolled up into this one single front end. And that front end can have its own team. That front end can also be broken apart in a component way as well that really mirrors a flexible, like thematic way to build, where you can have multiple teams injecting code with themselves. But again, everything is broken apart. Nothing is dependent on each other. And these systems start to work together in a way that previously they were kept in its own silo. So you can see here with like a headless e-commerce experience, you can start breaking apart the product catalog, the checkout experience, the marketing experience. All of these things can be broken apart on the back end and then still be delivered through a single UI, through a single unified experience on that front presentation layer. So a end user, a visitor, customer is not even really going to be aware that they are using multiple systems. They're not going to be aware that you're using Shopify with WordPress, with another system. They're just going to think they're using your brand's website. They're going to think they're getting this great experience from this brand that has everything with common components, with just a common slick experience. And it really is uplifting to the entire revenue operation, right? Conversion, traffic, brand awareness. It just has tremendous benefits there. So benefits of headless, we're going to talk about really three things. We're going to talk about the performance. Monolithic systems like Shopify, they often suffer from horizontal performance, vertical performance and speed problems at large scale. So this is on the performance side, let's say page load, let's say builds from a product perspective. These things, as you tend to add items, as you tend to add visitors, they're going to start to slow down. Or you're going to trade off and have to buy larger packages, more enterprise-driven packages on these platforms to deliver the speed that your customers need. So you notice a Gatsby website versus a traditional website that is not static generated, it's going to be a touch slower. And again, that's just because it's a server-side render platform that has a lot of functionality. It has a lot of things built into the monolithic aspect of it. And it's not optimized in that way. The second thing really is around control. And this control is pretty broad. Control is really all about the experience that a user has, the functionality that actual businesses have around their website. So these systems like Shopify, like WordPress, you're going to be limited in how you control that experience by how what features they develop, how far they're pushing the platform. So support content is support content. It's going to be trapped inside a support portal. It's going to be on a different subdomain. You're not going to be able to use that content or pipe it into a product page. Same thing with blog content. Blog content is kind of strictly in that one silo. It can't be used in other places. Things like state, they're not often known between these different systems. So let's say you're logged in to your shopping experience. Now, when you log into or when you visit the marketing experience or the blog experience, are you then logged in there? Do you have personal content driven up, bubbled up for you by being logged in? Those things are very difficult when you use multiple systems, multiple traditional systems. They're much easier when you go headless. And even things like localization, accessibility, again, you're going to be hampered by the systems you're using. So let's say you have a world where you have a marketing site, you have a Shopify experience, and you have your support, let's say via Zendesk. You sell something that is really close to an accessibility persona. So someone in, like, let's say, deaf community, you're going to, and let's say that's important to your brand, you're going to be limited what you can supply that visitor by the system you're using. So Shopify, you need to know that they're going to always drive to be a super successful platform or super accessible platform. And again, Shopify may be, but then you have to also hope that a system like Zendesk is also on the same par, on the same needs as accessibility. When it's your brand, when it's important to you, going headless gives you the ability to control that. You can control a lot of those systems on the headless front end, like Gatsby, and just use the back end systems like Shopify or blogging and WordPress as the back end. They don't have to worry about accessibility in that standpoint. They're just supplying the information you need. We can do that on the front end. Lastly, let's talk about the developer experience. This one is huge. Shopify, WordPress, these tools, they were built for non-technical business owners and marketers. So really, they are fulfilling the need to get set up as quickly as possible, to edit content, to make changes without the use of a developer. That means a lot of the things that you would like to add, a lot of the functionality, it's going to be limited. There's just technological constraints when that is the case. So they're not really built for developers. There's not going to be great version control. There's not going to be the great ability to use modern tools, modern JavaScript tools, modern just local development tools. You're not going to be able to use those tools with these systems. So as a web developer, you'll be constantly jumping in and out of platforms, trying to use their low-code ability. And you'll also be selling to clients, and if you're in an agency setting, that you're going to be hampered by. You're only going to be able to fulfill certain needs when you use that certain project. So let's talk about Shopify being able to be run headless, and it can be done with Gatsby. So these two systems, they can work together, where Shopify supplies what it does well. So again, the product catalog, the inventory management, the shipping, the checkout experience, all of that is core to Shopify's value, and it's what they think about on a daily basis. Now, what we think about on a daily basis and what we're driving hard for is to optimize the web. So that front end experience, the speed, the security, the usability, all of those things, the developer experience, all of those things are what we work on every day. So you can get the best of both worlds by using it in combination. So we can help integrate your headless stack between your backend services like Shopify. You might use a CMS alongside it, like Contentful, and maybe analytics tracking on the backend segment. All of these things can tie together. So you don't have to just use Google Analytics on the front end and then have your backend analytics be either served up by Shopify inventory management or like Salesforce.com. You can start using these broader tools like Segment that can ingest data from the front end, from the back end just as easily. And Gatsby is going to help you integrate it. Gatsby is going to give you those React components, give you the plugin and architecture to build that front end, and it's going to be limitless. You're going to be able to add whatever functionality and feature that any competitor can be pointed to, which always happens in the web development setting. You'll now be able to build that with a front end like Gatsby. So the benefits of Gatsby plus Shopify, we'll talk about and go through each. The first one is faster page load speed. So Gatsby is a statically generated website or framework. So that means we do things at build time. We build your website at build time, and when a user comes to the website, the entire website is already packaged and built, ready to go right on an edge content delivery network. So if you are a user, let's say in the Northeast, and you have traditionally used a traditional e-commerce system that is out of, let's say, a large web provider that maybe has a server in Virginia. Every time you go to a new item, a new, let's say, product, you're going to ask the website for information all the way from Virginia. You're going to ask the latest and greatest info about that, and it's going to travel back and return that info. Now, in the world of 2020 web world, that's pretty quick, but there's definitely a discernible lag to it. There can be lag times of like even 1 second on the shortest, but 3, 4, 5 seconds is definitely very common in today's world, and it's annoying to users that have grown up in this digital world that are expecting things to be instantaneous. Static generated sites like Gatsby, we do all the building on the edge network. So that same user in the Northeast, when they go to access your store, they're going to get content that was uploaded to the CDN, and it could be 100 feet away from them if they live in a downtown major area. It could be a couple miles away. It's going to dramatically reduce that trip that you go to grab that information, and they're going to get the information back in seconds. And when they go ask for that new page, that page is already there loaded in the browser, and it's going to feel like an absolutely seamless experience. And that's the benefits of running your Shopify experience, not on Shopify's platform, which is very driven by server-side rendering, and using the Gatsby system that is more static and just a faster overall experience. Because of that faster page loaded speed, we're going to help you increase your SEO traffic. So organic traffic is the #1 ROI way for businesses to make revenue online. And with the faster page load, you're going to score higher in a lot of Google Web Core Vital scores, which we'll talk about in a separate slide, actually. We have all that optimized out of the box. You're also going to be able to ship features faster. So by headlessly decoupling your backend and front end, you can have different development teams work on different parts of your business, different parts of your e-commerce store, ship updates to the front end without affecting the back end and vice versa. So you can just constantly kind of keep shipping updates without worrying about, do we need a downtime for everything to build together? Do we need to hold Friday afternoons to get all of our new changes into production without worrying about something breaking? Gatsby plus Shopify, or in general, any headless system, decoupling those two things are really going to help your like robust release patterns. You're going to be able to update things a lot quicker. Also, integrate your favorite CMS. If you go with a traditional monolithic system, you're going to be tied into whatever way they deal with content. Or you're going to have to use a Frankenweb subdomain URL and kind of install it there. With Gatsby, Shopify had the solution. You're going to be able to source content from any CMS, any really data source. So you could have a web page with content from Shopify. You can have product information from Shopify, reviews from another system, commenting from Discuss, content from a blog system like WordPress. All that could be displayed on one page and easily integrated together with Gatsby's data layer. There's also security benefits of using headless architecture. You're going to be able to break apart how the database is accessed. So when you go to a Gatsby website, there's actually no open connection with the database. So you lower your vector for hacking by like tenfold. You're not going to have the ability to like hack in with cross-site script or anything like that, because there's no connection open. There's no way you could possibly be able to get into the database because the website is already built on the edge. It's already there. And then lastly, with Gatsby, you're going to get out of the box PWA functionality. So progressive web apps, they have kind of been on a roller coaster of popularity, and I think um, over the past like 10 years as large vendors have gone in and out of supporting them. But what PWAs bring is a more native, more mobile functionality to operating systems on a website. So you can think about when you go to a native web, or if you download a native mobile app, that native mobile app is going to be take advantage of operating system functionality like push notifications, like taking, let's say, changing the color of the status bar, of also of offline mode. All these things come out of the box when you use Gatsby, just like they would with a native application. So you'll really be able to take advantage of this functionality on a mobile device. You can basically get the benefits of a mobile app without having kind of the cons of paying for a mobile development team, for paying for a completely separate system, for learning a new framework that is native to iOS or Android. All that's going to come out of the box on your actual mobile web app and feel much more native to an iOS or Android user. And this is an example of how we can creatively highlight your products and kind of the end state of what happens when you headlessly build a system. So here, Cuts Clothing, it's got a Shopify-driven backend on the e-commerce side. It's got a contentful-driven backend on the content side, and that allows for this really amazing experience to be tied together and then displayed to the end user using Gatsby. So we'll actually go to a live site and kind of click through, and you can see how it works in real time. But these are the things, and this is the end state of adding two different systems into one unified UI. You can think about this again with support, with blogging. All of this can just render in one UI, look seamless. You can have one team work on it. You can share components, but that backend can be driven by different databases or different APIs, different third-party services. Also, from a boosting your SEO performance, these are the 3 new core web vitals that Google came out with. They're rolling this out this year in much more haste. So we'll talk through them really quick, but they're going to help boost your revenue. They're going to help drive new traffic to your website in a way, again, where Shopify monolithic system, we're going to be able to be on most all of these. So largest contentful paint, this is just the way that your website is delivered to the browser. Are you minimizing your CSS, JavaScript? Are you really optimizing that footprint that you're sending to the browser? The next is first input delay. This is going to be that first thing that gets loaded. Is it an image that is behind your hero and is going to load in 4 seconds and block every single thing else that's loading? These are, again, things that on a off monolithic system, you're not really going to have the ability to change. You're just kind of going to get what you get out of the box and hope it's optimized. And then lastly, the cumulative layout shift. This is everyone's favorite in e-commerce, but that pop-up that comes up and says, hey, I saw you trying to leave the website. Do you want to give me your email address so I can send you some emails about the latest coupons? Or that ad that pops up when you're reading a news channel right when you get to the meaty section, and then you click it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Those annoying things, those are cumulative layout shifts, and they are more important, or the negative experience they oftentimes bring out on a website, they're getting more important in Google's eyes. So all these things are summed up in a Web Vitals report score, and these things are optimized out of the box by Gatsby. We work every day on how we can build a framework that is faster and more responsive. So again, these are things that we focus on, whereas we're not focusing our daily development time on how to make the best inventory system or how to be the best product catalog. Those are things that we feel like other systems can really work on, and then we'll tie them together. So how do you get started with this headless system? How do you get started with Gatsby and Shopify? We think the easiest way is starting with our Gatsby and Shopify demo store. So head on over to shopify-demo.gatsbyjs.com, and you can take a look at a kind of a POC with 30,000 items. You can check out how fast it is, and then you can deploy it to Gatsby Cloud. You can check out the code. You can check how it builds, how fast it builds, with some of the things that come with Gatsby Cloud that we'll talk about. But it's a great way to just kind of see what the headless architecture is all about, how they work together, how the API keys come together, and how you can start building. Second, if you are more familiar, and maybe you have a Gatsby site, maybe you are a React developer, you can head on over to our plugin store and download the Gatsby source Shopify plugin in your Gatsby project. That's going to give you ability to retrieve things like product images, product data, inventory count, checkout experience. All of those will be able to be controlled by this source plugin, and really, again, give that easy, seamless integration between the front end of Gatsby and the back end of Shopify. Just like you can add this Gatsby source Shopify, you would add Gatsby source Contentful or Content Stack, or any other CMS that you're using, and start to, again, build that unified system between different backends and have that same front end. And when you come to Gatsby Cloud and you deploy it there, you're going to get advantage, you're going to be able to take advantage of things like incremental builds, which means on the static side, we're used to, let's say, waiting for the entire website to build in 3 to 5 minutes, and then you're going to see your changes update. Incremental builds with Shopify, with data, like coming from Contentful, they're going to happen in seconds. So we're just hydrating, we're rehydrating the content portion of the website and not actually rebuilding the entire static site. So for a site like Gatsby.js that has over 10,000 pages, when I work in our CMS, which is Contentful, I get incremental builds. I'd say the average time is about 8 seconds. So every time I click the publish button, that information is going to get out to live production in around 8 seconds. Second, CMS preview. So this is a really awesome thing that a lot of times with Headlessly, you lose. So CMS previews give you the same functionality that's present in a WordPress or Shopify, where I can preview the cart. I can click a button and see what my draft content looks like. A lot of times in the past, that's been lost with headless solutions. Not so with Gatsby. Gatsby Cloud has CMS previews. You're going to be able to click a button and see on a server some of the content you might have in draft. You can share that CMS preview with different stakeholders, and you can work on kind of, again, collaborating with things before they're pushed to production. You can also take advantage of things like deploy previews, where maybe you make large changes to the code and you'd like to see what it looks like on a different branch. You're going to be able to get the live website with a production-like environment. So production-like Edge CDN, production-like backend. You're going to get all of that on a unique branch URL that you can share, again, with anybody in marketing, anybody at the company that needs to see maybe the work. And then again, all this just works out of the box with Gatsby Cloud. Gatsby Cloud is going to give you a build and hosting tool for your entire shopping experience. So you can host your Gatsby website right on Gatsby Cloud. You can build it with all the backend right there, and it's all a wonderful developer experience. All right, so we're going to get to Q&A now, and we're also going to quickly look at a website that currently uses a headless architecture across its backend, which is Shopify, and front end, which is Gatsby. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And again, we're just going to click around real quick. We're going to get the feeling of what something looks like that is headless and not just Shopify. So I'm going to stop sharing, which probably gives you a really ugly screen. I apologize, with headshots. We're going to share the screen again. All right. So Ratio.com, this is a e-commerce store. They deal with sprinkler systems, and they have selected a headless implementation. And you can see here the content, the branding of the website itself. Sorry, this is right in the middle. I have a bar there, sorry. They have a homepage that is not just a large collection of squares. It doesn't look like Amazon.com, frankly. It looks like a normal business. And this is because, again, it's headless implementation, where this part of the website can be controlled by a CMS that was made to do this, and not by an e-commerce platform that was made to really control products. So here we have a much more content-driven experience. Again, there are pages like how it works, which I'm sure help drive organic traffic. I'm sure these pages are set up so they can drive traffic from Google. And again, they're beautiful content heavy pages. This would really be a struggle to build on Shopify's main platform. Again, it's just not what they're made. It's not what they were built for. But it also has the ability to have a really slick e-commerce experience. I also hope everyone can see how kind of quick and responsive the website is in general. Literally, there's almost zero lag time. I'm not building this locally. This is on an edge network. So here we have, we're starting to get into the e-commerce functionality. These are getting piped in from Shopify. We can add them to cart, again, just like anything else. We can change out the quantity. We can go back and look through each one on its own. So lawn champion, this looks like a normal actual, like, again, this is more of an Amazon experience up here. It's coupled with a more content-driven experience down here. We could also add things like review system. You can also add things like commenting, promotional codes right here. Here we have a live dynamic zip code. I'm going to guess this helps with shipping. And you can also add things on the fly while you're actually in, like on the page itself. Inventory can get piped in via functions. So Gatsby functions can go grab that inventory information on the fly and pipe that in too. So again, a kind of a con of static implementations in the past has been that kind of really hard part of getting dynamic data like shipping, like inventory status onto the website itself in a real-time manner. You can now do that again with Gatsby functions, which is amazing. All right, so now we'll just quickly go to the shopping cart and you can check out what the checkout experience is going to be. So this is the part that flips you over to checkout.ratio.com. This is hosted on Shopify. This can actually still not be hosted on Shopify. I find it easy to host here. And I also find that customers today are much more, what's the word? Forgiving of this experience, and they're used to it, quite honestly. I kind of compare this to, like, I don't know, 10 years ago when this experience would be on PayPal and it would feel like you were literally buying a virus after clicking a couple buttons. You would all of a sudden be on this different experience. It would look really rough and you wouldn't have that connection to what you were actually buying. So I think conversion really took a hit there. With this hosted checkout page, I do think Shopify has done an amazing job. I also just think we're used to it nowadays to have this experience look like this. So once you fill this out, you're going to head back to the marketing website on ratio.com. But you can, again, if you don't want it hosted here, the headless implementation allows you to go back and host it on ratio.com and look more, I guess, unified in that sense. All right, so that was our introduction to headless Shopify. I hope it was helpful as, again, kind of guide to why you would even take Shopify, pull it apart, and want to be building composable e-commerce systems. I also hope that kind of this, like, just quick look at ratio.com is a good indicator of the type of performance boost you can expect to get with the headless implementation. I'm going to quickly answer some of the questions that people have asked in the past. So I'm just looking through now. So what are some of the benefits of Gatsby over Next.js, considering the SSR factor? This is definitely a major one. I think that the benefits of Gatsby as a static site on the performance side to the end user spells itself out pretty easily. You're going to have a faster experience on the end user side with a static website. Now, traditionally, what that has meant is slower kind of productivity on the developer side. As developers, as content creators make changes, that build time is going to be a hindrance on actually using it. So once you scale up into pages that were 30,000 pages long, that build time could take anywhere, let's say 10 minutes to get through. That's a long time and it kills productivity. But with Gatsby on Gatsby Cloud and taking advantage of incremental builds and some of the things we're doing there, again, a lot of the updates you can expect a new product added. Those products are going to be added even on a page or on a website as big as 50,000 pages. Those products are going to be added in seconds. It's not going to take more than 30 seconds to incrementally rehydrate that information. Also, with things like Gatsby functions, you can take small snippets of functionality like inventory, and you can pipe that in dynamically, where you can have kind of real time without rebuilding each change. So I think those are the benefits and kind of, again, some of the things we're working on to suss out some of the cons. Managing customer data. I've recommended to use Shopify to maintain customer data. I also would generally agree. Customer data, as far as like the inventory, credit for the ability to control the admin. So you can definitely do that. Can I add CI/CD actions on GitHub for Gatsby sites? You can currently today. So a lot of the other things around the build step can happen on GitHub's actions. Things like, let's say, running a test suite, and then you can build the Gatsby site on the actual build platform. So our build and deployments happen separately. All right, the other thing is a lot of plugins are used on Shopify, and people want to know if their functionality is going to port over. I would say for the most part, generally, many of the apps that don't touch like the front end, so let's say a pop-up app isn't a great example, but a lot of the apps that control inventory, help out with shipping, help out with geo, and it's going to be able to help you port those things over. So it's going to give you, again, exactly where you're getting hung up. The lack of customizability, either on the design or the functionality aspect, is slightly infuriating with Shopify, and we're going to solve that with a headless implementation. All right, so how does the Shopify plus Gatsby deal with websites in multiple regions and countries? Specifically, are there multiple Shopify instances for each checkout? So this one, I'm actually going to pass. This is a great question. We have a lot of content coming out around localization. I'm going to push this one to the front of the line and get an answer from some of our engineers here, and also help out with some of the architectural limitations we definitely see when working around localization. So not to say that I don't have a great answer for you, but it's a good question, and hopefully I can get something back to you today. If we do answer it, we will put an answer out on Twitter. So anything that we don't broach today, in kind of the next 3 minutes, we'll definitely get out an answer on Twitter. So what if Gatsby's site grows a lot and gets really JavaScript assets heavy? So this is what we hope happens, and this is what we are working on every day to optimize. We have a lot of good things coming down the pipe, but we also have things we've already shipped that optimize these things, like our image plugin, which is probably the best way to deal with images, I think, in any framework. It optimizes lazy loads. It just does an incredible job about optimizing image heavy experiences. Also things like JS or JS, CSS, like we're minifying all of those at build time. We're using new technology every day to help with that. So we're hoping that you can grow and push us because we haven't really seen that many sites that on the performance end we can't deal with. Can you create your own custom checkout forms just like Stripe? Yes, you can. We have an integration with Stripe as well. So all of the headless implementation you've seen here that you on Shopify side, you can also do with Stripe. So you're going to be able to source data, send data to Stripe, send data to Shopify, interact with them, all in our GraphQL layer. So that's actually a great example of something that you'd be able to tie together really easily with the headless implementation. All right, I only have 1 more minute, so I'm gonna piece together the best. All right, so what Shopify monthly plan does Headless Shopify with Gatsby require? We actually work with the free plan today. We don't require Gatsby Plus. So you're gonna be able to get, I believe, at least the Gatsby admin API functionality on the free tier. So you won't need to like upgrade to any fancy enterprise plan. We're gonna be available on the standard plan. Same thing with the sales app. Check out the sales app. I think that's gonna be the easiest way to start new and just kind of get rolling. But that's gonna be available inside your Shopify UI in your own dashboard on both the standard and the plus plan. All right, last one. Do you need to use another CMS layer like Contentful, Contently here with Gatsby? You don't. You can use Markdown, you can use HTML, you can use Google Sheets, you could use Shopify. You can really use any CMS system if you want to. If you don't want the ability to add in content like that, again, it could be a vanilla Gatsby Shopify site that you're still going to get all those awesome benefits on the performance side, SEO, functionality, without even needing to add another CMS. All right, so we have a lot of questions. We're out of time right now at the 50-minute mark. I will try to get back to everyone individually. We definitely thank you for coming out today. I do as well, not just Gatsby. And also feel free to hit us up on Twitter, support@gatsbyjs.com, or sign up for Gatsby Cloud and get rolling with a headless implementation of Shopify and Gatsby today. So thanks, folks, and have a good one.